welcome to Question Time. My name is Mpho Tsedi. Human Rights Day coincides with three important events on the country's calendar. The day marks the 20th anniversary of the signing of the final draft of Constitution in 1996 and the 60th anniversary of the 1956 Women's March to the Union Buildings. 21st March also commemorates the killing of 69 people and the wounding of 180 others during an anti-pass march in Sharpeville in 1960. Today's festivities are celebrated under the theme South Africa United Against Racism. This is Question Time. Of what importance is the country's constitution and the Bill of Rights? What do the 22 years of democracy mean to the Human Rights Commission? How does inequality impact human rights? And what can South Africans do to stop racism? My guest today, Dr. Remember Miamini, is the head of research at the South African Human Rights Commission. But before we go into the discussion, let's have a look at this clip.
This year, we have chosen the theme, South Africans Unite Against Racism for Human Rights Day. We have done so due to the need to continue working together to eliminate racism and its manifestations in our country.
Well, that's President Jacob Zuma there. The numbers to dial, 089-110-4210, 089-110-4210. Our Twitter handle at QuestionTime24. Doc, welcome to Question Time.
No, thank you very much for having me here.
Now, for the Human Rights Commission, is it just a coincidence that you are called the Human Rights Commission and today we're commemorating the Human Rights Day? Any linkages?
I think that human rights plays a very central role in the history of this nation. Constitutionally speaking, the Bill of Rights stands as the pivotal point in the narrative and the bridge between the past, the present, and the future that we aspire for. And the Human Rights Commission, then being the oversight institution for the Bill of Rights, as the mainstay of the constitutional democracy that we have today in South Africa. So coincident, complementary concept, you can say it, but yes, the two, the Constitution, the Bill, and the Chapter 9 institutions altogether, specifically the South African Human Rights Commission, plays a pivotal role in sustaining the democracy that we have today.
Now, somebody may be watching us and saying, what are you talking about? Yes, we know we've got all these rights on paper, but we are not enjoying them. What is the Human Rights Commission doing? Absolutely
a valid question to ask, especially where we stand today as a country. But we must be able to also appreciate the context in which the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the South African Human Rights Commission operates. And that is the history of a country for centuries, and in the recent history for over 100 years, that was racially divided, and that had informed the political and the policy framework that we operated with for a long time. Now, undoing this injustice and transforming that society to the society that all of us want is not certainly, it can't be a photo. It is a movie. It is a process. And that process, day in, day out, we're making progress. It may not be fast enough, may not be far enough, but we are making progress as a commission, but also as a country.
Okay, Ngatile, you are in the Northwest. Let's welcome you quite early in the show. Yes, go
Hello.
ahead. Go ahead.
You can.
Well, we could hear you there, Ngatile. Hope you will come back. Now, tell me, what is the view of the Human Rights Commission when so many South Africans' human rights are being violated in 2016?
It is heartbreaking that 20 years into our democracy, and as you stated rightly, that we celebrate one of the most globally celebrated constitution, the Bill of Rights, that not every single South African feels that they have access to their right and their rights are being protected. It is not certainly for us as a commission very comfortable, because we deal with these complaints on a daily basis.
Now, what do? You cannot just deal with them, Dr. Remember. What are you doing?
First, and I'm sure that you appreciate that we have, in terms of the constitutional arrangement, a two-process accountability mechanism. The Constitution and the Act established the South African Human Rights Commission expects that the Commission will carry out certain things. First is that we will be able to investigate when we receive complaint and make a recommendation to the Parliament, and that it is then within the mandate of the Parliament to then hold, if it is the state actor or a non-state actor, accountable on the basis of recommendations that we've made.
What have you ever done? Okay, Tulima Donsela makes a lot of noise. We know about it. You are also a Chapter 9 institution. What have you done which, you can show and say, this is one of our major projects?
The South African Human Rights Institution has a record of defending and promoting the right of South Africans across this country. Then we can talk, let's start from investigation. The South African Human Rights Commission was the institution that investigated business practices in the mining sector, and based on that made recommendations that on which we have policy framework today. The commission operated within the water and the sanitation, had a national hearing, had a report from which government put in place policy framework, monetary framework that today provide access to water and sanitation to a sizable number. The same thing with respect to education. We've done significant work with respect to education. Complaint handling, we've handled significant number of complaints, and where some of them have been resolved through mediation, others through litigation. We've gone to the Equality Court and we've litigated before the Constitutional Court. So we've done quite a bit.
Okay, we'll come back to that. Joe, you are calling us from around Gauteng.
Brena, how are you?
I'm well. How are you, Ndate?
All right, man. I'm very, very, very much concerned about this topic of the day.
Yes.
South Africa has progressed through all the stages up to where we are.
Yes.
In 20 years of democracy, we still find people, white people, still discriminating and abusing black people. But we black people, there's nothing that it's only these Chapter 9 institutions. There's only one. It's only two that's working, my brother. Human Rights Commission, ever since its inception, according to me, it has never done anything. We see daily black people going through bad things and white people doing bad things, but the rights of black people will always be suppressed. I don't know, man, Chief. These people, they must do their job. There's too much talking. They are talking too much, and no implementation is done in South Africa.
Thank you very much, Joe. Well, I think you can understand his point, because if you are saying to us that you are also intervening when, in as far as education is concerned, so many kids are still attending school under trees. There are no ablution facilities, and you saying you are the Human Rights Commission, you're supposed to be the custodian of the Bill of Rights.
Absolutely, and we share the same concern that the colleague who have called shared. We share the same concerns with you, and we have on a regular basis. In fact, we have a specific focal person that deals with the issue of children's right, access to education. And we must be able to appreciate also, and I'm not using this as an excuse, the fact that the Commission is not a service provider. We do not provide education. We hold government to account to its obligation to provide education.
But have you ever bothered to follow up why learners are still, learning under trees?
Absolutely. The Commission has gone to every single corner of this country.
And managed to pressurize government to ensure that these poor kids have structures under their roof. Yes. We're
doing this on a daily basis. And sometimes, we as a commission even get surprised because we have a government as a partner that we work with that has already made commitment to education. And then you have a report that says children don't have access to textbooks. And then you call the government and say there's a problem here. And you have the same government, using the little resource they have to go to court, to be able to then try and spend time, instead of spending that time to provide basic textbooks, which they've committed to as one of the... So we have challenges that we all work with.
All right.
And we appreciate them.
Let me take Itumeleng. Itumeleng, you're in Pretoria. Welcome. Itumeleng? We seem to have lost Itumeleng there. We need to take a quick break. When we return, we'll be taking your calls. 089-110-4210. Does the Human Rights Commission really serve any purpose for you in your daily life? And what are your impressions with today as a National Day? 089-110-4210 at question time to voice our Twitter handle. We shall be back.
As stories are broken around the world, SABC makes sure you do not miss out. As the stories unfold throughout the day, News at 8 updates all newsworthy stories worldwide. Globally, we are there. Locally, we leave no story untold. Make a date with News at 8 every Saturday and Sunday on SABC News, Africa's news leader.
Welcome back. You're still watching Question Time. Our guest today is Dr. Remember Miamini. He's the head of research at the South African Human Rights Commission. Now, Dr. Miamini, there was a conference on racism which you held in Midrand.
Yes.
What was it all about?
In 2000, the South African Human Rights Commission had a conference on racism. And that conference was informed by the fact that majority of the complaints that the Commission received during that time related to equality, but within that predominantly was a complaint around racism. And decisions were taken at that conference, plan of action were adopted, and we thought 15 years down the line,
yes,
it was a time to reflect on how far we've come as a Commission,
yes,
and how far we've come as a country. what lessons have we learned with progress and challenges we have encountered, so that we can then learn from those, especially in the light of events that are unfolding in the country that tend to remind us that even those progress has been made is not really been fast enough and has not gone too far for majority of South Africans. So it was a time for reflection and a time for us to be able to ask those hard questions. And as a country, together with the government, of course, then move forward to try and address the challenges that racism still poses to nation building and social cohesion in this country.
Yandisa, welcome.
Okay, thank you, Paul. It's Yandisa, not Yandisa.
Oh,
right?
Yandisa.
Yes, Paul, you've got a great show there.
Thank you.
Basically, I'm not sure if this is a question, because rather I would like to comment, but your guest there will see how to respond to that. I think, Paul, one of the things that people have got to realize in order to deal with racism, etc., is to have a strong leadership. Without having that, for instance, we will always look at the wrong places for a solution. If I can just give you one quick example. You have to check, for instance, you've raised the issue of the school children that are still studying under the trees.
Yes.
Why are people still voting the same party that is failing them in that field and many others? That cannot be resolved, for instance, by Human Rights Commission. Okay, leaving that one to this issue of racism, for instance.
Yes.
If we do not have leaders that can teach us, for instance, how to handle racism, we will always be the victims of racism. I can just give you one clear example. You check the current ANC is talking about criminalizing the racism, etc. I don't think that is a right. In fact, that is teaching black people to be cowards, and black people will always remain victims of this. Why are white people, for instance, not complaining about racism? It is because they know how to play with black people's heads. Here is Chief Biko, who once said, the greatest weapon of the oppressor lies in the mind of the oppressed.
Yes.
Tenny Sparrow said something on social media. What the ANC did, they spent money hiring buses, taking all these elderly women, presumably with their elderly illnesses, under intense heat. They take them to march. And if I can ask you, how is that helping black people, for instance? You cannot take people go and march. For instance, if you were to compare that with what we have seen in America, the marches would only occur once an innocent child has been killed by a white police, which is a huge difference between that and what we've seen in our country. I mean, there is a whole lot of examples that I can bring to you that you can see that our leaders actually are not fit enough to handle racism. That is why black people are always failing when it comes to the issue of racism. I mean, if I can...
Yandisa? Yandisa, sorry, get that right. Thank you very much for the call. You've made your point there very well. I think, leadership, it's something that I guess also lies, obviously, with the, in the hands of the electorate themselves. But racism is still a problem in South Africa, and the victims are black. Do you think that you're doing enough, really, do you sleep well at night, knowing that you have done something to protect black people against the harsh realities of racism in South Africa?
No, thank you. The caller made some very important points. First, and I want to reiterate the fact that fighting racism is a collective responsibility. It is your responsibility, as it is my responsibility, as it is the responsibility of the Commission. And the second point that the caller has made is it has to be systemic. It has to be systematic. We cannot be so reactive to an issue that, as a Commission, consistently, before 2000, we've received the complaint consistently every year, and we only wait for somebody to make utterances for us to react as a country. It has taken the government 15 years to put in place a national plan of action to fight racism that will provide the basis for a country to then respond in systematically.
Maybe you were not doing anything to say to them they must do something.
We did that every year, in and year out, in all our recommendations. So we provided that in, and at the last conference,
And
even the
they're not
government,
hearing you.
no, even the government apologized to the nation for not doing what it was supposed to do, and that is put that in place. So there were points that were raised there.
Okay.
Now back to your question. Of course, nobody should be able to. We can't rest until we're able to deal with the challenges that racism provide in this country. It is, and as Mbeki had said in the conference, we are not just dealing with issues around color racism and like racism around utterances. We live in a country where wealth is still predominantly white and poverty is still predominantly black. And of course the question that he raises there is, when we have the conversation around racism, who is talking to who? It's more or less, as we go around the country, we have victims talking to victims. So we need to be able to then open up this conversation and have a very frank and honest conversation as a country.
Okay. Ayanda, you are in KZN.
Hi, Paul. How are you?
I'm well. Thanks for the call, Ayanda.
I'm good, and greetings to your to Dr. Remember.
Yes.
Firstly, I just want to say happy Human Rights Day to all the to your viewers and to all the South Africans. And just a quick comment, Paul.
Yes.
The serious problem that we are faced with is the politicians or the political parties in particular, that I think they are contributing to this racism or these utterances, these disparaging utterances that are being made. And I'm not saying they are the cause of it, but I'm just saying that they are contributing to that by fighting amongst each other and calling each other by names, which is absolutely unacceptable. And we must also demonstrate that what is also happening in Parliament is also might be cause of racism or of hatred or antagonism that is being evinced by people, ordinary people of this country. And also, I just want to put it to the biggest mistake I think that we're doing as South Africans is to say it's only black and white. You see, I'm a black person. I don't think that it's only black and white people who are involved in this fight of racism. I think all South Africans should be involved. Indian community, colored community, we all South Africans, we should also be involved in this fight. The first thing we should do as South Africans is to ensure that when another person, as a black person, when my own brother has tried to be racist to a white person or any Indian person, I should be able to be in a position where I defend that person. Not because I'm black, I should defend black people. We should defend other race, and if needs be that we should fight with our families, we should do so in protecting this country and its identity.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, your comment to that?
No, absolutely. We hear that across the country as we talk to people, that we should be very careful not to play a political game with racism. There is the danger of racializing the policies and politicizing our approach to racism, and that we've heard that across the country. And I think there's a call that policymakers and all of us should, but also again the fact that it is a collective responsibility. It is absolutely not a white and black thing. It is for every single South African. That every act that dehumanizes one South African dehumanizes all of us.
Okay. Now, Doctor, remember, why should you get paid again next month?
Thank you. Because the challenges still exist. And we have to consistently confront this challenge. It's taken the US over 300 years to deal with the monster of racism. It is taking Europe years to do the same. I wish I could say that the result has been accomplished. Okay. South Africa is a one nation. It is a rainbow that mixes colors. I would be very happy to just resign today and go, but the challenges still exist, okay, and we have to confront it.
All right, but now as a researcher, have you, looked at, for instance, the SADC region? Is racism only a South African problem? Is there racism in Zimbabwe?
racism as a color issue is not just a South African issue. Material racism is not just a South African issue.
Okay.
It is, of course, an issue that we've said it manifests in different contexts, in different countries differently, depending on the history of that particular country. But I think South Africa stands specifically on a very, hot ground because of the extent to which history had shaped what we have today.
All right, let me quickly look at the poll that we ran here. Is Human Rights Day still worth celebrating? 73% of you said yes, whilst 27% said no. But that was, the poll for today. And indeed, that was Question Time for today. And we welcome Peter Ndoro back. And from Question Time, we again send our condolences on the passing away of Mr. Ndoro Sr., Peter Ndoro's father. But that was Question Time for today. A big thank you from me and the team. Have yourself a wonderful time. Goodbye.